Okay. And Misha, because you know how to do this really well, this is a Zoom recording, so you know how all of that works. We did it once together when you were showing me things. So, Dr. Peat, I would like to have Misha just kind of go over a bit what he's been doing and the aspect most specifically, of how Misha, you use the ketogenic diet as a part of what you do. I know it's not the be all and end all by any means, it's the breathing piece. Because Misha has become a really a warrior in terms of getting people's breathing in good shape, partially mentored by Artur Rakimov, another friend and colleague of mine. So I wanted to give him credit. So Misha, why don't you go ahead and kind of give Dr. Peat a little bit of the idea, and then Dr. Peat, after he has, if you would sort of, maybe you have some questions or some remarks, that would be great. And I will attempt to keep from sticking my nose in here too much, so that the
brought in.
Okay, and then afterwards, Dr. Peat, I want to get that diet. We were talking about, Misha, we were talking about how Dr. Peat, he's become an expert on how to have a good nutritional diet based on his research for how much a day, Dr. Peat, would you say?
Well, in Mexico at Lake College, it was about $15 a day.
$15 a day?
No, I mean a month, 15 a month. 15 pesos a day.
Yeah. And so,
wow.
Yeah, but that was back before you were born, Misha.
Okay. It would be hard to do it right now, to do the same.
Who knows? I don't know, but we'll find out. Okay, so take it away, Misha, and kind of go for it. And Dr. Peat, whatever questions you have at any time, please jump in.
Okay. Well, it's a very big pleasure to join in conversation with you, Dr. Peat, and with you, Bud. And I'm very, very interested in physiology, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, and I'm not a specialist per se, but I am more. I try to see at the healing as an engineer. So I try to kind of combine different concepts, and what I come to through my limited experience now is that I see I made a kind of a model of human healing that I use to my patients, to my clients, and that is, if I may explain, that is a pentagram, actually. The pentagram, which consists of the star with 5 ends, and there's two groups of ends. If you know the Vitruvian Man, you remember what it is? It was the Leonardo da Vinci, the drawing of the Vitruvian Man. You remember? The circle and the star in it, and the man standing in the star. It's called the Vitruvian Man. And I'm talking about energy acquisition from the environment to optimize energy acquisition to the body, and then to optimize energy distribution in the body. And in the 5-star, energy acquisition is the two main sources, is the energy acquisition from the food, macronutrients and micronutrients, and then acquisition from the air, that's oxygenation on the cellular level. That's energy acquisition. And energy distribution, that's a model. We have acquisition here from the hands, and then energy distribution, I base it as the triangle, and I call it the triangle of resilience. And the top of the triangle, that's the mental resilience. And then in the base, here and here, that's the physical and immune resilience. So my idea is that when we, all the 5 parts, they are interconnected and interdependent. They are, the pentagram is actually a mesh. So I base my exercise on what I call multi-purpose exercise. If I take a physical part, then I can connect it to all the 4 others. And I make the exercise, for example, a physical exercise, it's always a movement, it's a structural movement. And this structural movement, I can connect and explain how it works on immunity, on mental side, on the on breathing, and actually also on nutrition and on digestion. And the same with 5 stars. And the digestion has the very central role in it. And what I use is the ketogenic nutrition, because I tried myself many different kinds of diets. I tried to be vegetarian, and I tried to do paleo, and I tried just to eat everything also. A holistic diet. And I found out that first on myself, that's the because I do a lot of sports, I found out the ketogenic, I never do bonking, I never go hypoglycemic, never. And it was really interesting, because I used to always to take on court with me, I play tennis every day, almost every day now. I used to play every day. I used to start my day at 7 o'clock on tennis court, two times a week with the trainer, and 3 times a week for matches, playing matches. And I always had chocolate. I always have a different kind of glucose things, and I always been. Used to start morning eating a very big breakfast, and then going on court and stopping after half an hour, 40 minutes, and get something glucose or something, because I was really was like bonking, because it's the I run a lot, and it's I will always play singles, and in the singles you move a lot and use a lot of energy when you're playing on a certain level. So I found out that in ketogenic, I used to have a very short nutritional window of like I eat first time at 12 o'clock and last time at 5 o'clock. With time, it got smaller and smaller. So now, for example, I eat last time at 5 o'clock in the daytime, and then I play tennis, for example, next morning at 7 o'clock, not having eaten anything, and I have plenty of energy. I'm never bonking. I eat the first time at 12 o'clock. When I come home, I'm not hungry. And that's a very special thing, actually. I like this way of eating a lot. And I see on my clients that is working perfect. And well, my clients, they have cancer, they have diabetes, they have asthma, and all the kind of disease that is based with systemic inflammation.
Misha, could you be a little bit more specific about how you do the ketogenic diet, the specifics of what you're recommending and using?
Yes, sure. What I'm recommending and using, it's the, for myself, it's not the same macronutrient ratios that I use for my clients. For my clients, I use something called therapeutic ketosis, and therapeutic ketosis is defined as 90, 8.5, 1.5. 90% of energy coming from fat, 8.5% of energy coming from protein, and 1.5 coming from carbs. That's the ketogenic. And what I use, the model called Keto IFCR, or therapeutic ketosis with intermittent fasting and caloric restriction. Caloric restriction is defined as 75% of BMR, basal metabolic rate. And it can be a little bit different from person to person. For example, when I work with a chronic fatigue syndrome, with ME, it's the most difficult, as I see, the most difficult of all illnesses, of all, as I experience it. It's very, very hard. It's very hard to gain energy in this. And intermittent fasting means reducing your eating window or nutritional window. And the idea behind that is that we try to trigger autophagy, and especially this kind of autophagy that is called CMA, chaperone-mediated autophagy. And chaperone-mediated autophagy, that's a cellular cleaning of the intracellular fluid, of proteins. So the cells are digesting themselves, the contents of themselves air, and that's what cleanse, or you call it whatever, but it's called autophagy, and that's very healthy for the human cells, and it starts about 10 hours after the last food in the stomach, the new food, as I understand. So in order to have the cells as long time as possible in this autophagy state, we reduce nutritional window.
Okay,
And,
Misha, could you stop right there for a moment?
Yeah.
Dr. Peat, any reactions or questions so far?
What particular kinds of protein and fat would you use?
Okay. Well, I use mostly proteins. That's the mostly animal proteins. Different kinds of proteins. We use meat, fat, meat. I use avocado. There's some protein there. What else? Butter, but mostly that's animal protein. And the fats, it's saturated fats mostly, because the most stable fats. And then we use monounsaturated, and try to avoid polyunsaturated fat as much as possible.
About what proportion between meat, eggs, milk, cheese, seafood?
You see, I don't do so much. I don't define the proportion so very much, because I try to establish this diet very much together with the client in order to fit because we want to establish the process. Actually, the hardest thing in all of that is to see from the helicopter view, and from the helicopter view, in order to establish the change, the lifestyle change, we need to establish very strong process. And for me to see I normally have my clients for a year, like half a year to a year. We work together until they are okay, and then they can go in maintenance. And in maintenance, we don't work together as so constantly, like every day, like I do from the start. So to establish the process is very, very crucial, and I want them to eat the food that they prefer, they like, so that it has a very big um, very big value here. So some of them prefer more seafood, some of them prefer more, meat, some kind, and different kind of vegetables. So it's a little bit different. But I try to tell them that seafood has some specific kind of micronutrients that they need. But some of them don't like seafood, for example. Some of them don't like fat meat. So it's always it's a different from person to person. I try to stick mostly to macronutrient breakdown and go from there, and very, very slowly introduce new foods. So they get very very different kind of foods. I really want them to try different kind of foods. And some people that have eating disorders, it's a very, very hard thing to do because they don't want to try new things. They just don't want. They refuse. And sometimes when they are at my place, I love cooking, and I actually try to show them very, very fast how to do some different thing and combine. And, just put the color, eat, try this, try that. Sometimes it happens that it works, but it's hard.
Misha, would it be useful to show a chart of one of your patients? Would that be possible?
Sure.
So Dr. Peat can see, the kind of extraordinary tracking that you do with people on all levels, and maybe speak about that. And
Sure. Let me start. Just a second. I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Just a second. Yes, let me see how we share the screen. Just a second.
Last time you did it yourself, I didn't do anything, so I'm just.
I'll try. Here. No, just a second. Mute. Start. Record.
Should I hit share screen or not?
Oh, start share. Here. Yeah, I found it.
Okay.
Can you see it? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So you see that's the online file that I have with each of my clients, where we work every day. And as you see, there's something called journal. You see, there's a different how do you call it in the Excel chart, Excel sheet, a different spreadsheets. This one is called journal. In this journal, we have all our meetings, and I write a program for the next day or next week. What kind of things we are doing, and so next one is called breathing log, and the breathing log. I'll show you. In the breathing log, we have a different kind of training. The red fields, you see the red columns called FR. You see? This is a Frolov training. There's with a breathing retraining with the Frolov device. That's the device. Dr. Peat, have you heard about Frolov device, the breathing device?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I sent you that. I sent you, you know, a summary of that. A person that Dr. Pete had worked with who used a Frollo.
Oh, yes, I remember. That's
Yeah.
right. And Dr. Pete, I do it myself. I do the device myself. I don't use the original Frollo device. I do the device myself, and I will show you how it looks like. Just a second.
And it's easy to make these, Dr. Pete. I can, if you want, you can make one yourself, and it's actually probably a good thing to use if Catherine wants to use it. I know she was wanting to use the mask. Misha also uses the mask, but he uses it mostly when he's exercising.
Okay. Now I try to stop sharing. Just a second. I'll show you. Stop share. You see, the device looks like that. That's the
Oh my God. You really, wow. The reason I said wow is because when you make it like he's making it, it's a huge amount of CO2. He's getting somewhere around 2%.
No. This is the smallest one. That's not mine. That's my girlfriend's. I'm at my girlfriend's place.
That's a huge amount of CO2.
Mine is 2 liter. This one is 14
But what I'm
centimeters.
saying, Dr. Pete, is that by using this and breathing this way, he's getting upwards of 2% CO2. He's approaching breathing.
The difference is in the Frolov device, we have only one possibility to adjust, and that's the amount of water used. We don't have other possibilities. In this device, we have 3 possibilities. We have a possibility to change the diameter here. The smaller the diameter, the bigger the resistance. We have the possibility to change the length of the, how do you call it?
Tube.
Of the tube. I also sometimes I do the tube with 2 diameters, so I put a smaller diameter in this one, so we can actually do the different resistance. When we take the standard, how do you call this?
The cap.
The standard cap, then we can change the different kind of bottles.
You have to see that that's open at the end. The bottle is open at the end.
The bottle is open in the end here. And actually, the 4th thing is, if we do the bottle here, not clean cut, but a cut that is not clean, then we can also adjust the resistance. And then the container. This container, that's the big container. The big container, so the amount of water can be very different. And this, the 5th thing is that when we're training, we can close the container. So the amount of the air that it comes and blends with the CO2 in the container get minimized. Actually, that's a 5 levels of adjustment. Okay, I do the again the share, and that's the red column called Frolov. And you see, Dr. Pete, if I take the column, you see FR1. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
And what it actually says that 2,6. I made my tables in the way that you can see the explanations of all the fields. You see, Frolov do-it-yourself device exercise. Respiration cycle is a respiration cycle ending average inhale to exhale ratio in seconds. A healthy adult should be able to go 20-30 minutes twice a day, for example, okay? So here, he started with 2.8. It means with 2 second inhale, 8-second exhale. And you see the column.
Excuse me, Misha, is that with the nose closed or with the nose open? Because it's much harder.
It's only with the nose closed. So you're breathing
Okay.
through the, like that, with the nose closed. Yes. Everything with the nose.
Yeah, because it's much harder with the nose closed because you're really intensifying the CO2 that way.
Yeah, you see, the average is taking, because he's doing, this guy have cancer, this guy have chronic lymphatic leukemia. He started, you see, this column B with purple, the second column, it's showing the average values for the day of exhalation. Because what we do, we go down to 2, and 2 seconds inhalation, it will remain like that for months. So inhalation is always at 2, and then we just extend exhalation. And you see what happens. We started making this, we started working in April, and I introduced him to Frolov device in June, because he was started doing other Buteyko exercise. And you see here in November, his values are 35. So he's doing 235. Okay? Some other values you see.
Excuse me, that means his exhale is 35 seconds long?
Yes, 35 seconds, yes. And he do the exercise for 1.5 hour a day.
So that means he's breathing
3 times half an hour.
All right, so he's breathing less than, almost less than 1 liter of air per minute.
Yes, he's breathing a very, very little. You see, then we have, you see all these yellow columns. And yellow columns, it's a columns about sleep hacking. All of these values, that's about sleep hacking. We have evening pulse, we have evening control pulse, we have the amount of hours of sleep, we have the waking hour, then we have morning pulse, we have morning control pulse, and we have maximum pulse. All of these things are describe the quality of sleep and the improvement of quality of sleep.
What do you mean by sleep hacking?
Sleep hacking means that we try to improve the sleep, because in the sleep we gain a lot of energy. And by hacking the sleep, we can change, really, we can speed up the process of recovery. So,
okay, let's stop for a minute and see if Dr. Peat has some questions or some comments.
Do you check their temperature occasionally? Body temperature?
what body temperature? Actually, not. I knew you would ask this one. Yes. No. But I will talk about thermogenesis and thermic equilibrium. It's very, very interesting. It's one of the things that you give a lot of inspiration. And I actually work with generating brown fat, but I'll tell you how. Yes. So no, not measuring temperature. No, but maybe I should do that.
What about their pulse temperature, or pulse rate before and after the breathing sessions? Do you see a change of pulse rate?
Yes. There's always a pulse rate, the different pulse falls after breathing exercise. But it's very, very different. It depends on kind of exercise. Because you see, there's a lot of exercise my clients doing are the exercise on full exertion, where they're making diminished breathing, when we actually work on what I call progressive active relaxation. And progressive active relaxation, that's a breathing retraining based on relaxation of diaphragm, on progressive relaxation. And active, it means in movement. And on this exercise, it's very often the pulse is sometimes the same. Sometimes it falls, sometimes it gets a little bit higher, but a little bit. But it is a very, very good exercise. But what I see after this exercise, the control pause skyrockets. Yes. But the pulse, it's not always reacting as in the breathing exercise while sitting. It's a little bit different.
All right, I have a particular interest. I don't want to make this go on too long because I do. Maybe we can do this again sometime and go pick up from here. I'll send you both a copy of the video.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get back into, for my own particular reason, the how you use the ketogenic diet, because as Dr. Peters, you pointed out, there are some possible significant problems with the ketogenic diet. And maybe you want to mention some of those, Dr. Peat, and then Misha, you could sort of indicate how you either deal with that or whatever. So Dr. Peat, you want to go ahead then? And I'll get back to, Misha, get us off that screen and back onto the regular screen.
Yeah.
I think the problem is when you go into a lower state of oxidation or excess reductive condition, reductive stress. Alcohol poisoning can do the same thing, but some people on a high-fat diet go in the same direction as if they had used alcohol. And that means that they're not oxidizing as fast as they should, so that everything shifts. The ketones that are being produced, they talk about the ketone ratio, acetoacetate and beta hydroxybutyrate, but hydroxybutyrate isn't really a ketone. And so it's the non-ketone which shows a reductive stress state if it's too high. Mm-hmm. And so if something is going wrong and you're tending to make lactate out of your proteins, breaking down your proteins too fast instead of living on your pure fat, that's where it becomes catabolic to the protein rather than just producing energy from fat.
Mm-hmm.
How would the issues about prolactin, estrogen, and cortisol play in this process?
I think those are the ones that rise when you're in reductive stress, and it would show up in the blood as a rise in lactate and a decrease in bicarbonate and carbon dioxide, as well as a shift from acetoacetate dominance to a relatively high beta keto butyrate, beta hydroxybutyrate, I mean.
Now, it seems to me, Misha, just in following what Dr. Peat's saying, that the breathing that you're having these people do ends up protecting them enormously and healing. So my concern was that it seems possible, and this is what I was wanting to point towards, it seems possible that the diet, that is the ketogenic diet, may be assisting in some ways, but I think that the intensity of the breathing, which is way beyond anything that any of our colleagues do. I mean, maybe Artur does some of it, but you're really you're the leader in terms of really pushing people that way, which is what Buteyko did too, including the cold water dousing, which you talked about. You wanted to talk about a little bit about the thermic effect.
Yeah.
That it's the huge shift in maintenance of carbon dioxide. Do you get do you get blood levels for carbon dioxide and carbonic acid?
What do you mean?
Well, do get their blood gases done.
Yes, yes, sure. That's what I wanted to show you all the sheets. That's one of the 10 sheets. That's only one of the 10 sheets. We have the sheets with blood work too.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that my sense is that the big thing that's making all the difference, because Buteyko was able to cure cancers. Sasha Stalmatsky kept telling me that they had done this, they had done that, and I just never had seen it because I never saw anybody do what you're doing.
No.
But Buteyko did. He pushed people to that level.
But you see, the idea is here that what I really want to promote is, I hate the word holistic because it's really used in some New Age aspects that I not always like, but it's really holistic. I want to promote the holistic view that we have to work. If we really want to make a change that will last, we have to both work with diet, with breathing, that which are the main sources of energy, as I see. And then we have to also work with the distribution, with the optimization of distribution of energy, with with the physical movement, structured movement, and with immunity, and the not manual, lymph drain, but actually with lymph drain in movement. That's what I incorporate in all the movement exercises.
Yes.
The consciousness about how lymph works, how immunity works. And we can really create a very, very strong synergetic effect by combining these works in one multi-purpose exercise. That's what I really believe. And using a process knowledge, how to establish a strong process, I call it's a Kaizen. It's a Kaizen idea of making a progress with very, very small steps. And that makes a very strong lifestyle change.
Let's go back to you, Dr. Peat. If most of what Misha is talking about in terms of the exercise, the mental attitude, the rebreathing training, the intensity of it, I'm totally on board with that. The place where I have a problem is the notion that the ketogenic diet is really, as you're doing it, is as useful as a better understanding of the kind of thermodynamic focus on functional and process, functional and structural from the standpoint of Dr. Peat. So maybe Dr. Peat, you could speak to that a little bit in terms of how you use things like orange juice and milk in particular, and eggs, as a way of the input of energy. Dr. Peat's written this beautiful piece about Pavlov and most people don't even know that Pavlov's exploration of food was a tremendous part of his work, which most people don't even really know about. So, wow. Dr. Peat, could you speak to that a little bit, please?
The thing that got me interested in the ketones was reading about the New Guineans who live essentially on potatoes. 51 weeks of the year they live on potatoes, and then 1 week they feast on pork. And their protein balance was measured, and there didn't seem to be enough protein in the potatoes to maintain such good physiques. And they found that their intestine was the ordinary E. coli in the intestine were nitrogen fixing. And so they were catching nitrogen out of the air, combining it with something in the potatoes to be equivalent to the normal 70 or 80 gram requirement for proteins for maintaining good health. So I wondered for a couple of years what it was in the potatoes that could be protein equivalent. And it turns out that it's the keto acids equivalent to the amino acids. All you have to do is find ammonia, fixed nitrogen, and add it to the keto acids, and then you get the essential amino acids. So it happened right around that time. Naturopath's sister was wasting away. She had gone down from 135 pounds to 65 pounds and looked like a skeleton. Her thighs literally were no bigger around than my wrists. And she was 5'6" or 7" tall. And she demonstrated eating, and she ate some scrambled eggs, and she tried to eat a high protein diet because of her wasting condition. Her naturopath brother had tried her on a variety of diets, and she kept wasting. And right after, as she was just finishing a big plate of, I think it was ham and eggs, she burped, and the room filled with ammonia. She said that always happens after eating, especially eating protein. That made me suddenly remember the New Guineans who were nitrogen fixing in their intestines. And so I had a fruit juicer. I sliced up some raw potatoes, put them through this centrifugal juicer, and a slimy, translucent liquid came out like egg white. And I scrambled that like scrambled eggs. And so it was somewhat a proteiny mixture, but it had everything that the potato contained. And she ate that and didn't burp and seemed comfortable eating it. So we, for a few days, juiced many pounds of potatoes and scrambled them. And she was eating everything without a problem. And she started gaining weight. And just as quickly as that, she was recovered. And next time I heard from her, she was at work weighing her normal 135 pounds. But we never figured.
Her condition? What was her condition?
We never found out. She had been to many doctors who couldn't diagnose anything. She had a strange moving lump that looked like maybe it was her pancreas sticking up to the left of her stomach, like there was spasms in her intestine. But the main thing was that she burped ammonia every time she ate.
Wow.
And that just stopped immediately on the first potato meal.
Interesting.
So that got me interested in the keto acids. But then I saw studies on coconut oil that the more coconut oil they fed the rats, the leaner they were. So the high fat, low fat, and medium fat diets, if it was average unsaturated fat, they got fatter in proportion to how much fat they ate, but still they were all very fat rats. The ones that ate lots of coconut oil were the leanest rats.
Yeah.
So a high fat diet made them lean and healthy. Yeah. And I experimented on myself, found I could lose weight just by adding coconut oil to my regular diet.
We use a lot of coconut oil with my work. I use a lot of coconut oil, yes. I do also for cleansing, oil pulling with my clients, oil pulling, both morning and evening.
It does something to increase the metabolic rate. I think it's diluting the stored PUFA, stored polyunsaturated, which I think act as a brake on the metabolism. So just like a fat lawyer was in a hurry. He said, well, if it'll help me to lose weight, I'll drink a cup of it. And he said he thought he almost caught fire. He was so hot.
Wow.
A couple of people have said that when they drank approaching a cup, that they felt dangerously overheated. But sometimes we would make a batch of ice cream consisting of about 40% coconut oil. And we could each eat a cup of that at a sitting without overheating because we had been doing it gradually. So I think it's a matter of adjusting to a higher metabolic level.
Yeah.
And thinking about the difference between the keto acid equivalents of the protein and the fat metabolism, which can produce some ketones. R.L. Veach did research back around 1970, 68, 70, 72 on.
Excuse me, Dr. Peat, that's R.L., what's the last name?
Veach, V-E-E-C-H. He was feeding ketone supplements, including keto acids, to kidney patients who had no kidney function. And he found they did fine if he adjusted the diet so that they could recycle their protein and phosphate. And the Burr study that was used as an argument that essential fatty acids exist, that linoleic acid is required for making synapses and brains and so on. A guy that worked in his lab, I think his name was William Redmond Brown, decided to try it on himself to see if he could live without essential fatty acids. So they put him on an absolutely chemically purified diet, no fat whatsoever, extracted milk as the protein, added sugar as the only calorie, and had his only natural food, I think it was a half of an orange per day. And he wasn't in perfect health when he started, somewhat high blood pressure and migraines and such. And after a couple of months on this sugar and milk protein diet, his migraine headaches went away, never to return. And he never developed any signs of a fat deficiency. So really he was, for 6 months, he proved that an absolutely fat-free diet was good for the health. And the interesting thing that he saw was that his phosphate levels stabilized at a lower level. And in recent years, a protein called Klotho, Klotho, has been identified as in a mutant mouse that lacks it. They prematurely age. So this is called the anti-aging Klotho protein. And what it does is regulate phosphate. And the interesting thing about William Brown's diet was that his phosphate was regulated downward. And that's the effect of the anti-aging protein, Klotho. So I think there's something about the sugar diet, which sucrose is half of a keto sugar, and the ketone of the fructose seems to have the same effect as the ketone that's produced in the either the potato diet, the keto acid rich diet, or the ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
And when you're healthy, the ketones dominate. The acetoacetate, where you have the double bonded oxygen, is higher than the hydroxybutyrate, which is reduced. And the keto sugar, fructose, lowers the the free phosphate and also the ATP of the cell. The cell is producing energy very fast, but it is keeping the ATP and the phosphate slightly lower than normal, making the cell run faster, like the brown fat metabolism. It's dissipating heat is its function.
Yeah.
And the ketones, when they're in the oxidized state, I think are keeping every cell, not just your brown fat, but your brain cells and everything, wasting heat, generating heat, and preventing obesity and all of the sluggish, slowing down symptoms of stress and aging.
Yeah.
So I see keeping the ketone ratio in an oxidized state, keeping the cell in an oxidized state, no matter how you're doing it, I think you end up in the same place. So breathing a high concentration of carbon dioxide is pushing the cell. The intrinsic electron affinity of the carbon dioxide, it's an acid in itself. It affects the cell, pushing it towards the oxidized state, the same way the ketones do. The oxidized ketones are retracting electrons from the cells.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to stop here, if that's okay, Misha. I know you have, maybe I'll give you a chance to make one more comment or so, and then stop, and I'll send you both a copy of this, and then we'll see about maybe, if it's okay with you, Dr. Peat, to go forward with this a little bit more. Would that be all right with you?
Yep.
And we'll set another time. Okay, Misha, take it away. Go ahead.
Well, sounds very interesting, Dr. Peat, and it gives a new perspective of what ketosis is and how we can thrive on different kinds of diets. But you see, I'm trying to do something that is easily understandable and is easily kind of doable by persons. So I tried also to cooperate with some paleoanthropologists that are working on what kind of defining what kind of diet the primitive people in the time where our DNA was formed, what they were eating, what kind of diet they were eating. And it looks like it's not we cannot be for 100% sure, but it looks like still many primitive people in the world, they use diets that are resembling very much ketogenic diet, and they're thriving on it and don't have cardiovascular disease, no obesity, and no diabetes. And that's why I chose the ketogenic diet, and I see there's a lot of scientific research right now on it, and I see myself the results with I just had a client with diabetes 1, having diabetes 1 for 40 years, 53 years old, doctor, and after 4 months of work with me, his A1, he is fallen 2 millimole per liter, under the normal rate in 4 months. And the diabetes 1. So you see, this rocks, really rocks what I see now. And Um, I'm really, it's so interesting area because you see, there's a lot of applications and people, I can see that people really can thrive on it. And they shed kilos like very, very fast. The inflammation stops. And I also use ketogenic diet on my dog. And my dog had an inflammation on the, here, a bursitis here, a very, very strong bursitis, like that. And the doctor said that he has to be operated. I say, no operation at all. So I started massaging him. And then I went to the butcher and said, I would like to have some lamb fat. Please give me lots of lamb fat. So he, after 2 months of lamb fat, the bursitis, all the inflammation vanished. And he's not humping anymore. No pills, no surgery, nothing. So he eats lamb fat and lamb, the rest, real meats. And
Not just muscle meats, you mean organ meats as well.
organ meats, yes, different kinds of, but mostly fat. Yeah, I give him a little bit apple too during the day. I give him some cabbage actually because I'm Russian, so cabbage. It's we have to have cabbage, otherwise we cannot coexist in the same house.
Well, I want to thank you, Misha. Thank you, Dr. Peat, so much. This has just been enormously instructive to me. I will send both of you a copy of this, and we'll set up a time that works for both of you in the not too distant future to go further with this, if that's okay.
Would be great, Bud and Dr. Peat. It was so enriching experience. Thank you very, very much. There's a lot of ideas and views on physiology that I never been close to before. So it's very, very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.
Bye.